That was it. Robert Redford was the gentleman of modern Hollywood, the calm in the midst of craziness. And for decades, I had never seen her before. But when I saw her on a TV show, I thought, that's it. While others flared up, faded, or went out, Redford remained grounded, brilliant, and above the fray. He never aired dirty laundry, never pursued rumors or news stories. At the age of 88, the Oscar winner finally expressed what his family and close friends had known for years. There were legends he couldn't stand, performers who were terrible at their jobs, and men he clashed with behind closed doors. The activities were nothing like the shows that many recall. Some of these names will crush your heart, and they are true, because you might never watch one of the most well-known films again after you reach the final name on Redford's list, the Hackman Gene. Over the years, Redford and Hackman collaborated on Downhill Racer and a few other films, but they were never friends, and never desired to be. On set, Hackman's raw energy frequently clashed with Redford's cool-headedness. During drills, Hackman was known to lose his temper, dispute the direction, and disregard nuances in favor of using force. Redford found it exhausting. He's one of the greats, Redford reportedly told a colleague, but he didn't care who he smashed to get there. What began as respect for each other in the 1970s quickly turned into a guarded distance. Redford couldn't tolerate Hackman's methods, but he loved his work ethic. No one could call him lazy. Hackman viewed every area as a battlefield. He ruled, not just acted. Co-stars suffered because directors were frequently caught in the midst. Redford, who preferred quiet and teamwork, found Hackman's mood swings unpleasant. A Downhill Racer producer remarked, "You never knew which Hackman you'd get, smart or angry." There were little outbursts throughout the sequence, but one particular instance put an end to their relationship. During a pivotal performance that relied on nuanced emotion, Hackman reportedly became enraged over a lighting arrangement that he felt did him no honor. Work was slowed down for about an hour because he wouldn't get out of his trailer. The director made an unsuccessful attempt to intervene. "This isn't your movie, Gene. It's a team effort. Show up or step aside." Redford eventually went to Hackman's trailer while the crew was watching, opened the door, and told him, "This isn't your movie, Gene." Hackman did show up, but the two never spoke again behind the scenes. When Redford was alone himself, Hackman was like a violin shop tussle. It had nothing to do with skill. Redford never downplayed Hackman's brilliance. It was about behavior, authority, and basic deference. Redford, who had been subtly producing and directing since the late 1970s, allegedly crossed Hackman's name off of multiple casting lists. He would scrawl, "Not worth it," around the edges, excellent talent yet completely unhuman. Their jobs continued in the same direction over the years. Despite becoming Hollywood icons in the new era and winning Oscars, they never collaborated again. Years later, Redford paused and gave a kind smile when asked if he regretted not working with Hackman more. After he said some pairs only need to happen once, he stopped talking. "He's one of the greats," Redford reportedly told a colleague, but he didn't care who he smashed to get there. Woods, James Woods. They couldn't have been more different in their personal and political beliefs. Although they never collaborated on a full-length film, Woods made multiple unsuccessful attempts to secure supporting roles in Redford films. Redford later claimed that Woods was really upsetting to him and difficult to simply be in the same room as. According to reports, Redford fled a casting session when Woods asked him about Vietnam policy while he was reading a courtroom play. Redford stated after the fact, "He brought chaos to places that needed quiet." Though that didn't help, the reason wasn't only political. "I wasn't interested in managing that energy." Woods' straightforward approach was exhausting to Redford, who is composed, principled, and modest. Redford disliked games where players competed to outsmart one another, whereas Woods took pride in being the smartest person in the room. Redford reportedly remarked, "He never wanted to understand the story when they first met. He wanted to control it." The two men's creative approaches were completely dissimilar. Redford excelled at evoking layers of emotion, character subtlety, and quiet intensity. In contrast, Woods struck rooms with kinetic power, wired, acute, and frequently unanticipated. "He could make you brilliant, but you had to make it through the storm first," one casting director remarked. That was not a risk Redford wanted to take. The altercation became a casting director legend. When Redford was organizing the shooting of a courtroom thriller in the late 1980s, there was one particularly heated meeting. Woods was given a supporting role and did a fantastic job right away, but he had to break character in the middle to discuss the political significance of a phrase. What began as a drill swiftly evolved into a discussion of Cold War foreign policy. After just 2 minutes of listening, Redford set down the screenplay and walked out of the room. Woods continued to ridicule Redford in interviews and private business panels for years after the incident. "If I wanted a debate," he later claimed, "I'd go back to college." Woods would occasionally discuss Hollywood hypocrites, those who ran businesses like generals while preaching peace, but he would never name them. The coded language was readable by those familiar with the past. Redford, meanwhile, remained on the blacklist, despite refusing to speak in public. People claim that in his casting notes, Woods' name was followed by the stern words, "Never ever." Redford didn't want any of the edgy, unpredictable roles that Woods was known for, despite his unquestionable brilliance. His statement, "Tense and toxic are not the same thing," the opportunities vanished. "I never understood that line." The telephone did not ring again. Redford remained silent, even as Woods' career became more about conflict than skill, save for the occasional scathing remark in private settings. Dustin Hoffman commented, "I didn't want to deal with that energy." Redford later said again, "He brought chaos to places that needed quiet." Redford was always frustrated by Hoffman's method, even if All the President's Men made them one of the most well-known film couples ever. Hoffman frequently modified the blocking in the middle of a play, questioned texts, and wrote up lines on the spot. As a laser-focused director's player, Redford detested the unpredictability of the situation. He didn't want to collaborate with anyone else, and believed Hoffman was attempting to take over the camera. From the outside, it appeared to be magic. Two of the biggest stars of the 1970s, portraying real-life reporters looking into the largest political scandal in American history. I asked Redford why they never collaborated again. He simply replied, "Once was enough." Behind the scenes, however, two very distinct artistic ideals were gradually coming into conflict. Redford arrived on set prepared, cautious, and attentive. Hoffman enjoyed being impromptu and would alter his delivery at the last minute, which could disrupt the tempo and intensity Redford had worked so hard to build. It was stressful, but not loud or theatrical, according to crew members. They simply claimed it was uncomfortable. Hoffman would shoot one version of a scenario after acting it out in another. He frequently stepped into Redford's light during shots, moving slightly to shift the focus on the screen. Redford initially found it difficult, but he attempted to dismiss it as a necessary component of the creative process. However, he became irritated with the interruptions as the project progressed. One sequence, a phone conversation scene in the office, is reported to have required 7 takes by Hoffman. The tone, tempo, and spontaneous lines varied from take to take. Because he had to cope with all of those abrupt shifts, people claimed that Redford was enraged by the end. Although the set was heated, director Alan J. Pakula walked the fine line and kept tensions from rising too high. "You could tell Bob was biting his tongue," recalled a lighting technician. The filmmaker retained both stars in the film, despite not knowing it would wind up being memorable. Every day behind closed doors, Redford worried about losing the story's flow. "We're trying to tell a story," he was heard telling Pakula during a break, "not chase 1,000 little moments." Redford, who went on to direct his own critically acclaimed films, valued precision, quickness, and adherence to the rules. Hoffman, on the other hand, frequently felt like a player attempting to win on his own, and viewed acting as a team sport. Although Redford never publicly criticized Hoffman, he declined all offers of retrospectives and reunion panels that arose years afterward. They both silently agreed that it would never happen again, and there was no argument, no scandal. Tom Cruise. Behind the scenes, Lions for Lambs, their one joint project, was a complete failure. The film's director, Redford, struggled to get Cruise to stop thinking like a businessman. Redford later said that every note was about brand rather than emotion or honesty. According to some, Cruise pushed for last-minute rewrites, shooting angles, and scene alterations. Redford resigned, citing the film's poor box office performance as one of the most taxing endeavors of his career. He never spoke with Cruise again. When the movie was first proposed, it appeared to be the ideal combination. Redford, the veteran of contemplative American cinema, Cruise, the popular celebrity who wanted to transition into more serious material. However, there was an issue from the beginning. Redford aimed to create a straightforward political narrative, intelligent, provocative, and current. Cruise discussed the film's overarching message, as well as the camera settings, lighting, and clothing. It was colliding, rather than cooperating. According to insiders, the stress began immediately. Cruise, who also served as the film's producer, insisted on having the last word on practically everything, even the speed of the edit and the appearance of the posters. It was said that he attended production meetings accompanied by a team of image specialists and publicists. Additionally, he frequently substituted terms like market positioning and viewer perception for the more widely used actor-director terminology. Redford, who had once spent 3 days rehearsing a silent scene for the film Ordinary People, was taken aback. Even during the practice, the division was evident. According to reports, Cruise wanted his body to demonstrate control. Thus, he requested stylists to be present during blocking sessions. Redford stated after the fact that the two performers couldn't even agree on the movie's theme. I wanted the scene to show vulnerability. He wanted it to show symmetry. Redford believed it should tell us about the failure of institutions. For Cruise, it was an opportunity for a well-liked leader to put things right. Things became much more tense on the set. In the middle of a scene, Cruise would frequently pause to request a change in lighting or to insert a more powerful statement that wasn't part of the script. Redford first tried to work with them and was quite patient, but by week 3, he was obviously tired. Are we acting or are we selling a campaign ad? Redford leaned in during a take, according to one person who worked on the project, and his hands were still all over the finished product. He apparently argued about the length of a response shot and requested multiple trims of his scenes. Before the firm intervened and backed Cruise, Redford helped him. That was the final blow. Redford missed the majority of the press turned in the film and never touched it again. When the film first came out, it received mixed reviews and did poorly at the box office. Cruise went on. Redford lowered his voice. The incident was remembered as a breakdown in philosophy as much as a failure in creativity. The two men were attempting to express something and sell something respectively. He never spoke with Cruise again. Janet. It was cold outside, but there was a lot of talk about 3 days of the Condor. According to reports, there was tension between takes. Redford and Dunaway didn't get along at all while filming. Due to Dunaway's extreme pickiness and desire for perfection, the director and he frequently disagreed. Redford was frequently in the center. Redford immediately referred to her as a storm in heels. One group member stated, she wasn't hard because she cared. She was hard to deal with because she didn't trust anyone, not even him. The two appeared to be a terrific fit. Redford was playing at his best, cool, professional, earning a lot of money. After Chinatown, a lot of people believed Dunaway was among the most compelling actors of her era, but they obviously operated in somewhat distinct ways. Redford enjoyed moderation, economy, and delicacy. Dunaway arrived at work each day, as if preparing for combat. She fiercely defended her method, didn't hesitate to confront anyone, including the director and her co-star. She frequently requested to rewrite lines the night before filming, to view the dailies, and had a history of requesting modifications to previously approved lighting plans. Redford found that the production became daily negotiations rather than invention. One script supervisor reported that during a break, Redford said, "We're here to find truth, not micromanage every syllable into submission." Their scenes together were charged, tense, and moody, but the tension wasn't performing. It was barely restrained wrath. Dunaway would request multiple takes of the same phrase to adjust the intonation down to the syllable level. Redford, who preferred to trust his instincts, became increasingly irate. "We're not building a watch here," he reportedly responded after she requested a fourth reset in a brief scene. One day, at a confidential meeting with director Sidney Pollack, the tension reached a breaking point. Dunaway had asked how her character's emotions made sense in a pivotal scene. Redford sat motionless for a long moment, then said, "Fie, it's espionage, not Chekhov." The room fell silent. She walked out. The atmosphere never improved, but she returned the next day, as if nothing had occurred. There was nothing pleasant about their interactions, despite the script's requirement for intimacy on television. After Dunaway finished, Redford reportedly requested a body double to be employed for filler shots. They never collaborated again. Years later, when asked about her in a news interview, he hesitated, smiled thinly, and remarked, "She's unforgettable. No reunions, no sentimental discussions. She was tough because she didn't trust anyone, not even him," Redford said. Another crew member added, "She was a storm in heels." Duvall, Robert, despite playing the key roles in The Natural, the two actors were significantly different. Redford was meticulous and well-organized. Duvall, more spontaneous, trusted his instincts. During a pivotal scene, Redford allegedly told Duvall to adhere to the script. Duvall flatly refused. People on the crew still talk about the brawl that broke out behind the scenes after that. Redford said after the fact, "Duvall wanted to play jazz. I wanted to play the piano. It was noise rather than music." Redford treated the film as a symphony, practicing, timing, and emotionally precise. Duvall, no notes, no rehearsal plans. He believed genuine acting came from the heart, not the script. At first, Redford admired the rawness, but as the shoot progressed, that same unpredictability became a liability. One scene was the turning point. Redford, usually composed, lost it. "It's not your movie," Redford told him. Duvall replied, "It's not anyone's, until it's real." The crew stood back, cameras still rolling. The fight was electric. After the film, Redford said, "He's brilliant, but I don't need to go through that again." Newman, Paul Newman, the man most closely associated with Redford, the partner in Butch Cassidy, and the Sundance Kid, and the Sting. Redford claimed the friendship wasn't what it seemed. He was charming, but he always kept his distance, and sometimes he played dumb to get away with more than he should have. There was no major argument, but trust was gradually being lost. He stopped being my co-star and started being my competition. They looked like lightning in a bottle, but by the time they reunited for the Sting, something had changed. Newman, cool blue charm. Redford, calm storm. They changed what a movie star could be, but Redford always felt like Newman had a wall around him. Reporters would ask Newman questions first. Articles mentioned Newman more. Paul was the face, Redford once said. I was the footnote. They remained friendly, respectful, but they never made another film together. When combined, these names reveal something few have seen before. Some are unpleasant, others necessary. They show a man who was cool under pressure, but who shared everyone else's scars from working with others. In Redford's Hollywood, there was just as much darkness as there was sunshine on screen.